Again, welcome back to Eye on the Islands. I'm your host, Derek Gabriel. With me this edition is Albert Bryan, the Commissioner of Labor. We've been talking about some of the programs that are directly impacting our Virgin Islands community. Of course, Commissioner, one of your more popular programs, again, is workmen's compensation. And I know that one is definitely having a significant impact in our territory. So go ahead and tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, lately we've been and for the last couple of years, we've been in a crisis situation with our workers' compensation program. It's one of those things that, in addition to the fiscal crisis that we're seeing right now, that people discount. You know, I had a conversation today with somebody, and they talk about the budget in this year, and we could have done things better. But I think what people fail to realize, there's a lot of different things going on and a lot of pressure on the business community as well as the government to perform in a situation where we have limited revenues. Now, workers' compensation is basically the program that you get when you get injured on the job. This program also covers you lunchtime, and it covers you on your way to work and on the way home. It's a really beneficial program. And when you look at the policy, you see how our lawmakers are very socially driven, and it's commendable. But what's happening now is that we can no longer afford to do some of the things that we're doing. Currently, there's a cap on medical benefits and workers' comp. So if you got injured, you could get up to $200,000 worth of benefits, medical. But there's no cap on income. So you could potentially collect workers' comp for the rest of your life. And what we've been trying to do is trying to get people to a point where they could transition to something else. Because if you lose a limb or you lose an eye, or you may not be able to do what you were doing before, so you would have to transition to a different job. And when people think of workers' comp, you traditionally think about somebody falling off a ladder at Vitelco, getting their hand caught in something in a mill or at Juvensa. But people suffer from all sorts of different occupational hazards, respiratory problems, psychological problems. So they're impacted in different ways. And if you're a policeman, let's say, and you go through some type of traumatic experience on the job and you have to be out for 5 years, 6 years, you know, in therapy or whatever it is, workman's comp pays the bill. And what happens is people amount not only tremendous medical bills, because as you know, if anybody been to the hospital lately or to see a physician, medical costs are really one of the nation's concerns. And we don't have a reinsurer. So whatever the bill is, workers' comp pays. There's no 80% to Cigna. And over the years, we've been collecting this money to fund this program through government insurance. Well, government insurance has not had a rate hike in 30 years. And because of that, number one, the collections are short. But at the same time, the benefit package has gone up yearly because your benefit amount is based on the amount of the annual average salary of a Virgin Islander. So if the annual salary is $34,000, 66% of that would be, I think it's $22,000 or something like that. And that would be the maximum weekly benefit. So that moves every year. So if you figure in 30 years, what was the average salary 30 years ago? That has moved that far, and I would imagine it's doubled or tripled, while the collection hasn't. So we currently run a program, and I would say we're doing very good at running it because we only collect $8 million, and we charge out or incur costs of $12 million annually. And that has created some really bad deficit problems for us. Thank goodness for Commissioner Angel Dawson, my colleague. I have to say, we've spent some long and hard nights worrying about how to get this paid, but he works with us to make sure that we are able to extend benefits to our medical benefits, as well as pay to our claimants and to the medical community. Right now, the fund was over $5 million in terms of $2 million apiece almost to each hospital, as well as medical providers in the States and locally. We've completely stopped sending people to the States at this point because I don't think people realize we pay companion travel, we pay for your travel, and for people in St. Croix, we don't have as many specialists, so we ship people to St. Thomas all the time to see the doctor.
Wow.
And if depending on your situation, it gets quite expensive.
So tell us a little bit about some of your creative ways that you've approached these programs?
Well, in the midst of in the wake of this 8% cuts, I went to all my employees and I spoke to them about Act 7261 and what it means to them. And one of the things that I really tried to push forward in every meeting I had is who's eating your lunch. In the Virgin Islands now, we have to figure out who's eating our lunch. Whether it's that person sitting down next to you who's not doing anything and eating up your 8% of your salary at that job, coming in late, leaving late for lunch, leaving early, calling in sick when they're not sick, or is that person who is out committing crimes, shooting people that we got to house in our penitentiaries, the shooting victim that we got to put in the hospital and give medical care to who doesn't have any medical insurance, the one who dies and we got to pay for human services to bury that person, the 2 children that they live behind that we're going to have to house and take care of, the 2 who's going to grow up without a father and probably create more social costs for us. We got to think about who is eating our lunch. We have to hold one another accountable and make one another responsible for this Virgin Islands, because we do want to be able to extend these great social programs, but we're not going to be able to do it if we have people wasting away our 8%, like I call it. And people really understand that message. They really understand that message. One of the things that we're going to try to do now is for workers' comp is we're trying to get a schedule of medical benefits. Right now, the doctor can charge you for anything. If you go to a hospital with a Cigna bill, with a Cigna card, the hospital bills Cigna. Cigna has a set schedule of how much they're going to pay. The hospital has to eat the rest as a provider. Those are the type of programs that we're trying to move to. We're going to try to adjust right now the workers' comp insurance is the cheapest insurance in the world. It's based on an $8,400 range, which is when we had $4.25 or something as minimum wage. Mm-hmm. We're going to try to move that to 15, which is more in accordance with what we pay as minimum wage now, which is still cheap. Mm-hmm. If you figure right now, if you have 10 employees, you can buy workers' comp insurance and it covers your business. We're trying to move to a point where it covers each employee, because you could just claim you have 1. So no matter which one gets injured, you're covered. So ways to make the program a little bit, the collection and the billing a little more concise, as well as we're stepping up our fraud efforts. Looking for people who have been out on workers' comp, and you could see them on the cruise and on the roof painting their house and billing the neighbor's shed, cracking down on those people and making sure that they get back to work. In our unemployment insurance, we've also cracked down on a lot of fraud. We have a lot of people that have been overpaid, and we're finding those people now, and some are coming in and paying what they owe because they know they got paid too much, and others, we're filing criminal charges, which is a sad situation, So we urge people to do the right thing in these programs. And if you see someone of your neighbors committing for fraud or eating your lunch, report them. Report them.
Yeah, I like that. I gotta say, I like that. Who's eating your lunch today, right? It's definitely, as you said, a way to drive it home to the average person as to how the fraud that they're committing is directly impacting you. Correct. Whether it be, as you've said, whether it be collecting benefits that you don't deserve, or even cheating on the time clock, which is a big problem that we have, all over the place that we're trying to out. One of the other things that, of course, directly impacts that conversation as well is how your employees interact with our customers on a one-to-one basis. And I know you've done a significant amount of work as far as training your employees up. So tell us a little bit about that.
One of the putting service in public service is one of my great impetuses. I know the Lieutenant Governor shares it as well too. Making sure that your employees, you ever notice you go to a government office and it may be the person had a bad day or whatever, you're given a hard time, but the minute you realize who you are, the whole complexion changes. Oh, you're Auntie Mary's son, okay. What would have taken a day or 2 days, it suddenly appears before you in 5 minutes. I mean, that's the kind of thing I try to remind the employees, and we're trying to take an approach on, treat him like his Auntie Mary's son. And I think that's the way, because this community is so close. That's the way we have to treat one another. And changing the culture in government is something that I think we have a great opportunity to do now. We have a lot of people retiring with this $10,000 incentive that are going to be leaving us. It's going to leave a lot of big holes and gaps in government. It's a great opportunity for a culture shift. It's a great opportunity to create efficiencies in how we provide service. And it's a great opportunity for young educated people coming back from college who want to start work in public service. But the one thing I have to remind them, the only reason to be in public service is to give service. If you're there for the money, you're in the wrong.
You're in the wrong business, definitely.
The wrong business.
You're in the wrong business. I agree, and I can definitely appreciate the fact that you're educating both the customer, external customer, and the internal customer. Both are equally as important. Of course, we're going to take a quick break, Commissioner Bryan. I know you got a lot to talk about, especially with your youth programs. We're eager to hear about that. Of course, stay tuned with us. You're watching Eye on the Islands.